In this lecture, we'll go over something called scenes. Within your Blend file, you can create multiple scenes, and you can think of scenes like multiple projects in one single Blend file. And all these projects can actually share resources like objects and materials. So an example of scene usage would be to think about game levels. You can create a new scene for each level, and then share the resources between all the scenes in the Blend file. So when you first open up Blender, up here in the scene menu, you can see there's already a default scene setup. Now, if you want to start another project within this Blend file, you can create a new scene from this menu right here. Now, from this menu, you can create a new blank scene, which will reset all of the settings, or you can create a new blank scene and copy the settings of the original scene. And the settings it's referring to are such things as render settings like dimensions, or scene settings like units of measurement and things like that. And you can also create linked copies or full copies of the original scene, which we'll go over later on. But let's start things off just by adding in a brand new scene. So now we've got this completely blank scene to build a new project in. And you can change between your scenes by using this menu right here. And while we're back in the original scene, let's make a note that the default cube here also has a default material called material. And I'm showing you that because I want to show you how we can share this resource with the other scene as well. So now let's switch back to our new scene. And let's rename this to Cone Land. We're obviously going to be adding some cones to this. So let me press Shift and A, and I'll add in a mesh cone. And now if we go over to the Materials tab right here, and I go through the Material menu, you can see all the materials we have from other scenes appear here as well. So we can share those resources between scenes. Now let me duplicate this cone so we have quite a few of them like that. And let me select them all. And we're going to add these to a new collection. So I'll press the M key, and I'll create a new collection called Cones. And click OK. So now I've added all those cone objects to this collection called Cones. Now if you watch the lecture on collections, you'll know that we can add in something called collection instances. Well, because the scenes share resources, we can add in an instance of any scene's collections into any other scene. So for example, if we go back to the original scene here, and I press Shift and A, I go down to the collection instance menu, you can see we can add in that cones collection into this scene as well. Now another way to share resources between scenes is to link your objects to other scenes. So to link one object to another scene, we'll simply select the object like the cube right there, and we'll press Ctrl and L for the link menu. And then we can link that object to a scene of our choice. So let's link this cube to Cone Land. And now we'll switch back over to Cone Land, and you can see the cube is right there. Now I want to point out that if we move this cube around and we switch back to the original scene, you can see it moved in the original scene as well. So objects that are linked between scenes are actually the same exact object. They're not like a linked duplicate or anything like that. Any change, whether it's in object mode or edit mode, will appear wherever that object is, and also any settings like object properties or even modifiers. This is basically the same exact object, just existing in multiple different scenes. Now let's say we actually wanted to unlink this object from the other scene so that it's independent, and we can move it around without affecting the linked object from the other scene. For that, let's go up into the Object menu here, down into the Relations submenu, and let's go into the Make Single User menu and check out the options here. Now if we select the Object option here, it's basically going to give us a linked duplicate type situation. And so let's click on that to start off with, and we'll make the selected object a single user. And now we can select that object and move it around, and even rotate it and scale it. And when we go back to the original scene, you can see that object was not affected. However, because we only made the object a single user and not the object data, that means that if we edit the mesh or any of the object data and go back to the other scene, you can see it's going to edit the mesh there as well. So the object itself is independent, but all of its data is still linked between scenes. So let me undo all of that. So again, that just created a link duplicate type situation. And if you want to learn more about link duplicates, then check out the chapter on duplicates and link duplicates. Now, if we wanted this object to be completely independent from the other scene, we want this to be entirely its own object with all its own data, then we'd go to Object and down to Relations, Make Single User, and we'll make both the object and the data a single user. And now we can move this and edit the mesh and any of the object data. And if we go back to the other scene, you can see this remains unchanged. So they're both completely independent objects and object data now. Now I just want to mention sort of a shortcut for creating a completely independent object that's been linked from another scene. Let me just delete everything for right now. And let me add in a monkey head. And I'll press Control and L, and I'll link this monkey head to the original scene as well. So now this exists in both scenes, and it's linked to one another, so if I make any kind of changes, it's going to change in the other scene. Now if I wanted to get a completely independent monkey head, I can go through the menus and make it a single user, or you can also just press Shift and D, and that's a shortcut for creating a brand new, completely independent object, and then delete the linked object, and now we have two independent monkey heads. So that's just a shortcut for achieving that without having to go through the menus. And let me undo that real fast so that we have the linked monkey head back. And just one last thing when it comes to this sort of stuff, if you delete a linked copy from one scene, that still is going to exist in the other scene. So you won't lose that information. Now let me add a couple extra objects in just to make this a little bit more interesting. Now let's go over the last two copy options. So let me go back up into the menu right here. And if we wanted to create a new scene where all of the objects were linked to the original scene, we would select Linked Copy. And it creates Coneland 0.001. Now all of these objects are linked to the original Coneland scene, as you can see. Now creating a full copy will just completely copy your scene, and instead of linking the objects, all the new objects are their own individual objects. So I can move them around and edit them, and it's not going to affect anything from the original scene. And those are pretty much the basics of using scenes. So between scenes, collections, and view layers, there are a ton of different options available to organize your projects. But that's going to do it for this lecture, so I'll see you in the next one. Now that the previous two lectures have gone into project organization, let's go over how you can share assets between different blend files this time. There are two ways to do this. We can append assets from other files or link them. This is useful whenever you want to reuse something you've made in another blend file. Now let's go over appending first, which basically just copies the asset from one file and pastes it into the current file. So right here we've got a plot of dirt, and I want to append some grass assets in order to fill it up. So let me go to the File menu, and I'll go down to Append. Now what you do is you navigate to the blend file that has the assets you want to append. So for me it's grass.blend. I'll click on that, and then it gives you a library here of all the different things you can append. And that includes collections as well. You can append entire collections if you want to. But in this case, I just want to append one object. So I'll go to the object folder and I'll append grass1 and press enter. And there we go. Now this is a full copy of the original, so it's not linked to the original in any way, which means we can move it around, rotate it, scale it, and even edit it in edit mode. So from there we can then just duplicate this, modify it, and just fill the plot of dirt with a bunch of grass objects. But let me delete these. And let me show you how to link things into your scene now. So for linking, we'll just go to the File menu and go down to the Link option. And again, you want to search for the blend file that has your asset, then look through the library, select your asset, and press enter. And there we go. So what this does is it creates an instance of the original object which can't be edited since it's linked to the original object. That means I can't press G to move it around, R to rotate it, or even press Tab to go into edit mode. I can't change this in any way. If we wanted to make changes to the linked object in this file, we'll have to change it in the original file. So let me save this, and let's open up the original file. So I'll open up grass.blend, and here's the model that we linked in called grass1. So if I want to change this in any other file that it's linked to, I would have to change it here. So let me go into edit mode here, and I'll just make this a little bit taller like that. And I'll press Control and S to save it. And let's open up the file that we have that linked into, and you can see that the changes have been made here as well. Now one purpose of linking like this is so that you can work on assets in separate blend files and then link them all into a main file. This is especially useful when working with a team, and it allows all of you to work on assets in separate blend files, which then all get linked into a main file in the end. And that just prevents any kind of overlap by allowing you to work from separate blend files instead of just one file amongst all of you. Now we can make this a local object as well, and this will allow us to at least be able to move it around, rotate it, and scale it, but still keep its data linked to the original blend file. And in order to do that, you simply select the object, go up into the Object menu, go down to Relations, then Make Local, and you make the selected object local. That's going to make it local on the object level, which means now we can press G to move it around, rotate it, and scale it, but you still can't press Tab to go into edit mode or edit any of its data. For example, if you go into the object data here, you can see that all the options here are grayed out, meaning we can't change them. Those are set in the original blend file still. But now at least we have the freedom to move this linked object around and place it in the scene however we want. We can even make linked duplicates if we want to. So I can press Alt and D, rotate it around, scale it if I want to, create variations, and continue pressing Alt and D to create linked duplicates, and I can fill up this plot of dirt with this linked grass object here. Now all of these objects still have their data linked to the original blend file, so if I wanted to make changes to the mesh for all of these at once, I would simply edit this mesh in the original blend file, just like we did before. So you can see how this can come in handy. One person can be working on game assets in separate blend files, then another person can be working on the final scene, like this one right here, in its own blend file where you can just link all the assets needed to fill the scene. And this prevents both artists from needing to work on the same blend file at the same time. Now there's another option that can make both the object and the object data local, meaning we'll be able to move the object around, but also be able to edit its data, such as the mesh shape. So let me undo all those linked duplicates and we'll work with just the one object right here. So we already made this object local, but we still can't tab into edit mode because it's still linked to the original blend file. In order to just remove that link, we'll go into the object menu, back down to relations and make local, and we'll make the selected object and data local this time. So now this is its own independent object, including independent mesh data. So I can tab into edit mode and I can change this because it's no longer linked to the original blend file. However, if we go over to the material buttons, you can see all these options are still grayed out. That's because this material is still being linked from the original blend file. In order to make that local as well, what you would do is go back into that make local menu and you'd make selected object, data, and materials local. And now all these options are available for us to change. So this object is basically a full copy now, including its material, which is no longer linked to the original blend file. And alright, that actually is going to do it for appending and linking. They're both incredibly useful tools for working on team projects or simply for reusing assets that have already been made before. But that's going to do it for this lecture, so I'll see you in the next one.